Well, basically, we're as we were talking about money and talking about, everything that we're doing, we talk a lot to our communities and our audience about how, how to invest or what to buy. And we forgot to mention, if you're getting a tax return this year, if you're in debt, pay down the debt. If you're not in debt, buy a house, right? So let's focus on that. Homeownership is becoming a luxury. If you have any questions on that, you can message me. But I wanted to talk about energy because money is energy, right? And we are a lot of times, and when there's a lot of uncertainty, there is this overwhelming feeling, almost like a brick on your chest, that really keeps you from doing things. Fear is very debilitating. Uncertainty, doubt is very debilitating. And what sparked the thought was I opened up my socials and I just always, every time I open up my Instagram, I just have a beautiful message from somebody, right? Instagram, Twitter, wherever. I just get every day. And I thought to myself, Lord, what am I doing that is creating this reflection in the universe for me, right? And I felt like, wow, this is an exchange. It's the same way when I sit and concentrate and meditate and I do what I need to do and I get a referral from somewhere. And let's talk about social media. I mean, in the last month or so, I've gotten about $15 million worth of referrals just from social media. And as you can see, I'm not extremely intentional on the internet with that. I mean, I am intentional. I shouldn't say I'm not, but I mean, I don't create content that talks about mortgage banking products, right? I create content about cooking because that's what I love to do. I put a flower on my bedside and I walked out to my backyard and I saw a rose and I was like, oh my God, the bush gave me a rose. And I was so happy. Like, I wish you could have seen how happy I was. And I brought that in my house and I just thought about my energy, how I deliver that energy, how that energy is being reciprocated. And I thought about us and I thought about our community. And I just thought about how important it is to clean that energy and realizing how beautiful it is when you're operating in a state of abundance. We always call it a state of abundance, but we don't talk about the details. We don't talk about how if you walked into your backyard and you saw a budding rose and you just lose your shit because you're so excited that this dirt and water and sunlight gave you a fruit. And the way that we walk around with gratitude for the very little things, the way people show up, there are a lot of people that come on social media every day. Oh man, these people that do this and those people that do that, and I can't stand this and I can't stand that. Baby, that's why you're getting that energy back. If you're scrolling and something is making you unhappy, log out. Like, log out. It's not that serious. Log out. Because every time I'm scrolling, I'm like, damn, look at her. She's winning. I'm so excited for her. Wow, she's so pretty. Damn, I need to stop eating carbs. I'm like, I'm having a very positive experience with social media. And I thought it was worth talking about because that energy does come back to you, like, how you walk into a room and a baby makes eye contact with you and smiles, like, that feeling, that is a very priceless feeling. And sometimes you walk away like, okay, God, I'm doing something right. And if you think about those very little subtle experiences you have as you're walking through life simply, and then you realize that's a reflection of who you are and the energy you're emitting. Now think about that in terms of your goals. We talked about how important it was to write those things down. We talked about how I don't think you guys realize how valuable this practice is. There was a book and a movie that became very popular a while back called The Secret. It was like everyone in business was talking about it, right? And there's one thing I recall from that book and that series that really stood with me. One phrase: checks in the mail. Checks in the mail, because that person just kept saying checks in the mail, checks in the mail. And all these random checks started showing up in the mail. Now, if you've never played with your own ability to manifest things into your life, to give a certain energy and understand that that's a reciprocal force, then you might not believe what I'm saying or know what I'm talking about. And it's not for you. You could just keep scrolling, right? But for those that hear me, who really know that feeling, what happens when that baby makes eye contact with you and you feel like God just touched your heart, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And those checks will continue to come in the mail. I would love for us to take the next 7 days until we meet again to do some accounting with our energy and purify a few things. Let some things go. If it frustrates you, walk away from it. Go hug a tree, step on grass, go smell a rose, hug, make some eye contact. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table and let you ladies talk about your testimonies with energy.
I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. The power of life and death is in the tongue, right? And so often we're conditioned to speak on the negativity in our lives, and life is reciprocal. What you put out is what you will get in return. So I love the fact that you brought that up. You know what I mean? And let's be clear. we only think that we're in control of things, right? We're not in control of anything. So if our heart and the purity of our heart is being measured, or the lack of purity of our heart is being measured every single day, like you said, if we're putting out negative energy, it doesn't matter how much we try to fake it in front of other people. At a certain point, we're going to get back what we have put out. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that sometimes we feel like we can live these secret lives or live these secret negative lives, and that everything's going to be all good. Nah, I don't quite work like that. And so for you, Patty, you do put good energy out, right? And so God measures your heart, and he says, you know what, my good and faithful servant, I will reward you. And
Amen.
that is why we sit here every day. And like I've talked to you about, I've mentioned before about, life is a constant faith battle for most of us, right? Especially for me. It's like I go a couple of days and my faith is like on 100, and then I'm like doubting again, right? And then God will show up the most inopportune times just to say, hey, I still got you. That's what checks in the mail is. Checks in the mail, checks in the mail. You're literally speaking out loud exactly what it is that you want, and that what you speak eventually becomes a belief, right?
Mhm.
And so you shall have what you're believing in. If you're believing for that, it will come. So I'm so glad that that's such a great reminder, honestly, because we have a tendency to focus on the things that are not going right. We're not focusing on the rose in the garden, the rose bush. We're not focusing on the beauty of the grass in our toes. We're focusing on the fact that, dang, I got to go put some gas in my car and gas is expensive. Or dang, I got to take this meeting. I got to this, I got to that. And I love the fact that you got your $15 million deals from Instagram. And guess when they came? You were asleep. But God is even watching your heart while you're asleep, Patty.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
knows that not only do you deserve it, but that when you get that blessing, he can trust you with that blessing. Right.
Mm.
And so he will continue to pour that into you, into all of us, right? Because if we can be trusted with what he's given us, and you do, like you're just such a freaking positive person from the moment that I met you, honestly. And it's very rare in life that you meet girls, right? And
And
I just,
real girls,
yeah, no, like
real ones.
real, and that's how I feel
Absolutely.
about everybody on here. Like a lot of people don't
Yeah.
know, like I didn't really know anybody before I got on here, right? So there's this nervousness of like, oh Lord, we about to get on here with a bunch of women. What is this gonna be like? But to meet literally a group of girls at this point in my life is like, wow, God, you knew what I needed when I needed it, right? And
Yeah.
that's that thing. So thank you for that reminder. Thank you for speaking on that. Thank you for being that light, and may God continue to bless you and everybody else on here and everybody that's watching. Just remember, like, life is unlimited for us. Like, we put our own limits on ourselves. So if we want great, we got to be willing to put out great. I can't ask for a fire if I'm not being willing to put the wood in first. So put the great out, and then watch the great come back in return. So I love that. Thank you, Patty.
Amen. Thank you. You just touched my heart so deeply. Thank you.
Well, I saw this TikTok the other day. I reposted it, and I'm really going to just take this creator's words. I cannot remember her name, but she literally said, you cannot be a hater and be doing well in life. You just
Ooh,
can't.
that part. Bloop.
Because she said, because if I'm doing well in life and I'm on a boat in the middle of the Riviera, I don't have service or signal to be dropping hate comments on your content.
Did Morgan
right?
say that?
Was it Morgan? I gotta look it up.
Oh, Morgan might.
It might have been. Hold on, I'll tell you. But I mean, it was one of the best TikToks I've seen in a minute, and she made such a good point, right? So I mean, this is all great, and this is not rhetoric, right? This is not us just singing the happy dance and saying, "Oh, be positive things." There's actually science, right? First of all of what I need is located in the Bible. But in case that's not enough, I watched a YouTube video that a friend of mine sent me probably a couple months ago, and it talked about the literal shape of sound waves, and that they're spherical. They're not the wave, the line wave that we think of, or that have always been visually represented for us, and that they're actually spherical. and they hold energy, right? It's science. And based on what you say can literally create energy, a sphere of energy that interacts with the world. It's not saying negative things that just go nowhere. Your words don't go nowhere. They go somewhere. And so you have to be very, very cognizant of the things that you say, because that you really will create your reality. I could run out of gas on the side of the highway, and how I deal with that or how I interpret that could be very different than how Patty or how Jade or Nasima interpret that. It could be the end of the world. I can get out, I can kick the tire, I could be pissed off, or I can say, wow, thanks God for saving me from getting into the accident that I might have gotten in, or whatever, right? I could,
Right.
the world, the way that you look
Reframe.
at the
Yeah.
world and you frame things is crucial, because if everything is of detriment to you, then you're going to always be in this negative state. And then the last thing I'm going to say about this is that, and I don't want to lose my train of thought. I talk too much, but when we are, I do it to myself every single time. But when we are, taking on the burdens of the negativity, we are not operating with the amount of faith that we are supposed to, right?
Yeah.
If everything is worked out, if everything is working together for good for those that believe in the Lord, if we are truly operating in faith, I do not need to have fear in any capacity. Jesus slept in the boat that was rocking in a storm peacefully, and everyone woke him up and he said, do you not have any faith? So I just want to put that little piece out there.